It is definitely one of those days. Trying to do a live today, but it's like one of those weeks where everything is kind of falling apart. So here we go. This is like round 10 of trying this maybe. But I was hoping to do a quick Q&A just to share just kind of what's going on and also see anybody's questions and things like that. And there's a letter, which is very, very, very exciting. We set up a post box for Trailbound, and we've been getting letters, which is so cool. So I'm actually stalling right now because I set up the wrong live and then sent everybody to basically the wrong thing, and then just got everything confused and all over the place. And that's kind of how it's gone the last 5 times. It's like every time we try to do something, it just goes inevitably wrong. So here we are in round 2. It looks like some people are sneaking back onto this live. It's like setting up a pop-up shop or like a bakery or something, and then like making a fake bakery and then just sending everybody to the wrong one. Terrible business model. Anyway, slowly, bringing things back. We got people from Pennsylvania. Looks like there's Kathy, which is great. So bringing back the live. Really sorry about all the delays here, but just really excited for like a quick Q&A because I feel like there's so many things that other people have questions about that we kind of all have the same question of. So it's really fun to be able to kind of make one spot and then talk through a lot of those, because I do feel in so many ways we're all kind of in the same boat, and being able to talk through that's great. So we just did a screenshot of some of the questions. Also really fun to see where people are coming in from. Looks like Arizona and Canada, Pennsylvania, and everybody on here are the ones who are technologically savvy, because everybody here has figured out how to jump from one to another, or at least more technologically savvy than I am. So just waiting a few more seconds. But if you wanted to drop some more questions in there, I know some people have asked some questions already, and I think we've screenshotted those to be able to ask. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. Yeah, Yukon, Canada. This is great. Also, if I can just say at first, as I'm stalling, thank you again for jumping from piece to piece. The dream is to do a live every single week. So we've got the live sketches, and then I want to do like a live just adventure. And so my dream is like in the future, the live sketches are, very fancy, cool setup. It's really neat. And then the live adventure is, which is what we were trying to do. Where is it? There's a GoPro here somewhere. We're basically trying to take one of these out into the field. So that's why everything was all messed up and set up, is because this can theoretically stream anywhere. And what I really want to do is be able to like put this on my head and take it into the cold or the mountains or the rain or whatever it is. And I want to sketch live with everybody and just see what happens when you take a sketchbook into a crazy situation. So that's what we tried to do. And that's why this is all messed up. And that's why I'm sorry. But we will get that one sorted out eventually. We might just like test it in private until we can really figure that out. Because like a phone would die in these situations. If you actually take it into, the cold, it would just die almost instantly. So, okay, let's get going in 2 minutes here. But it looks like, from Arizona and Indiana. Okay, very cool. If anybody had any questions, if you want to toss them in the chat, that sounds great. I am super excited. Oh, questions are on the old link. I'm super excited. I'm going to open this really quick. We have a P.O. box. So Trailbound has a P.O. box. Maybe Jen will toss that in the link at some point when she's not putting out the fires that I started. But I wanted to open this really quick because my goal and my dream is I want to fill this entire wall with trail tiles from the community. We have 4 right now. Maybe you can see them. They're very exciting. Let's see if I can just scoot this over here. Check out this coolness. So we've got a really cool magpie. There's a really amazing whale that was drawn by somebody with a broken arm, and just all kinds of neat stuff. So it looks like there's one more tossed in the mail. So I'm just going to open that really fast and then get to some questions, because it looks like a few more are coming in. Okay, it's really quick from Teresa. Teresa. Okay, Teresa's a really wild sketcher. Maybe you've seen her on Discord or on Instagram. She's always like doing these challenges, but like at a level that I can't do, which is kind of wild, where it's like the teacher is way out taught. But let's see where this is from. Hopefully it is for the wall. Okay, beautiful watercolor card. Yes. Oh, yes. Sending a little something for your wall. Oh, check this out. Oh my gosh, that's wild. On a trail tile. She said, Thought you might need a little something from the southern United States on your wall. This is armadillo found across the southwestern quarter of the country. I really love all the fun enthusiasm you share. Painting, always eager to see what's next. Oh, thanks, Teresa. That is really fun. That is going to go right here once I grab some tape. Actually, can I put it right there now? Will it stick? Okay, I'll hold it right there. Oh, super cool. And if you want to send over, we'll put stuff in the back. Okay. Cool. So we got some questions now. Do you still have your kit you're offering around Christmas with a Holbein, tins, palettes, indigo, and all of that? Okay, so that's kind of an interesting situation. Technically, there are a few right here. I think they're for a class that we're going to do. We tried to do this big, wild thing to like get these kits, to make them, to kind of get them out there. And we're finding really fast that as a team, you can kind of do one or the other. It's almost like you can do business or you can create art. You can make new stuff or you can sell the old. And it's, as a small business and a small team, we really kind of floundered, tried to do it all and didn't do any of it super well. Well, actually, no, Jen did a great job shipping a lot, because I tried to do that and failed. So we got about 300 kits out into the wild and into the world, which is super exciting. But right now we're focusing entirely on creating some of these really big stories. So hopefully in the future we get things like that kind of moving, and probably just have to have a bigger team and the logistics. But a big part of this year is just learning to kind of narrow our focus down. So right now they're not there, but you can still find Art Toolkit Trailbound palettes, which is really fun. We do have trail tiles kind of throughout everywhere, and we're just slowly kind of moving things around, but probably closer to Christmas we'll really have those going. Maybe if somebody wants to toss it in the chat, like, what's your kind of favorite go-to palette? What's the most effective, cheapest thing? Actually, I can go grab you some if you want to see some of the ones I use. Knock some stuff down here. Oh man, crash. Where is it? Okay, some of my go-tos are, this is actually pretty solid. Holbein, if you're into the Holbein paints, they do make things like this. They're not cheap, but I find the size to be really great. Come with a little bit of everything, including the pans. And then we've been kind of experimenting with just like, this is an Altoids tin, and carved out a block of ocean plastic, and that has kind of become a palette. And I am honestly like shocked at how effective this is. Basically anything that has any like wells can be a watercolor palette. It's kind of crazy, but we've really been experimenting with a lot to see like what we can make that's affordable and useful. The issue is finding kind of some paint that's decent. Anyway, very long-winded answer to the question, but trying to figure it all out here. Okay, let's see, from Eagle River, any advice on making your own line art? All of mine get very hairy because my attempts to get the line is in the right spot. That's kind of tough, actually. Yeah, line art is the scariest thing you can do in a lot of ways. So I have the like graph of a watercolor, the scary level, that's like the first line you make, and then like the line art, and then it just kind of drops off because it's easier and easier until you make those last few little tiny paintings or little tiny brush strokes. But line art's tough, and I make a lot of paintings. See, I got some sketchbooks here somewhere. Like, I make a lot of paintings, and it's the moment when the line art comes, like, is just kind of drawn in. It looks terrible to me. There's really amazing ink sketches, if you know Claire Giordano, with Art Adventure Academy. Those artists who can do like the beautiful pen and ink line, and like that's all they need, and it looks amazing. They're fantastic. But for me, I almost need that watercolor to exist and hide the line. So mostly, if you're worried about a hairy kind of line, I would say maybe do it super lightly in pencil or something like that. And then you kind of learn to see what that line is. But you could take my approach, which is just cover it all in watercolor. Pick your favorite line, cover it, and maybe work a little bit darker in paint so you don't see quite as much of the line. Or go the other end and just get way more hairy. Like, make as many lines as you possibly can, most of which are covered, and then all of a sudden it's like a style choice. But it's tough. I feel you, because the creating the own coloring book version is the scariest part of painting. Painting is like the easy spot. It's just that line art's tough. Great questions. Let's see. Were there any more? There were a ton. There were a ton of questions, and then we moved to a new platform. Um, any advice for having courage to create your own art and not only tutorials? That is a question. The funny thing is, I find it's like riding a bike, which is a terrible analogy because we all did it so long ago, and it'd probably be too scary to repeat. Like imagine relearning how to ride a bike. But when your training wheels are on, you can do it. And if you were anything like me when you were riding a bike, when somebody took your training wheels off, you didn't even really realize they were there. Maybe you fell a few times, and then all of a sudden you were just going. You were just into the world. And then you kind of never looked back. And I think that's a little bit like tutorials with art. Is the truth is like a tutorial is great, but you're doing it. If you're making a good painting off of a tutorial, you're there. Somebody might be holding your hand, but like you are there. You are the artist. You are the one doing it. Unless they are physically holding your hand. But it's tough, and I often don't know what to do myself. What got me out of it was a lot of filming. That really helped me because I was trying to capture something that wasn't just the painting. It's kind of like you look beyond it. I often use the analogy of like run past the finish line, because in track, if you run just to get to the finish line, you might fall a little short or something. So if you run past it, you're going to go straight through it. You're going to go as fast as you can and then past, and you're not going to slow down at all. And I think when it comes to painting, a big trick and really helped me kind of move further is just painting the stuff that I want to see. Just really getting excited, because there's a lot of tutorials out there, but there's guaranteed something that you want to see exist in the world that has no tutorial. And if you can paint that, then you're kind of making something new and unique, and it's this added bonus because there isn't a tutorial. So I would say like it's tough. Yeah. I mean, the truth is like you're there, but it's so hard to know that. And if you can just find the thing that you're willing to get over that scariness for because it doesn't exist and you want to see it exist, that's where you should start. Maybe it's a strange style. Maybe it's something that'd be funny. I usually paint things for cards, but I struggle with it too. And I can't paint for myself. I almost have to paint for other people. Like if I don't have a purpose for the painting, it's really hard for me to make one. Even if the purpose is just taking a photo to post online or for a video or for a card or something else, I can make beautiful works of art if they're a gift. But if I'm just making something to make something for me, I kind of struggle a little bit. So yeah, maybe find the thing that needs to exist, and that could be a good starting spot. I have no real good answers for this. I'm sorry. Okay, Trailbound sketches. Okay, not either. Let's see. Sadly, I missed out on the Canadian postal system. Oh, yes. Okay, so you're still looking for good stuff. We'll maybe send us a email or something, and we'll see what we can do. There's just so much going on, kind of getting things out and about. But if anybody has any good suggestions on like good starter kits or something like that, or yeah, your people should get in touch with our people. Send us a little message. We did make some little fun things. This is something we put together just for like events and things. It's like this little tiny kit. I think they're part of some of the other ones. It's just like a little, basically small Altoids tin with little waffle cones. So the hope is that eventually we can make these out of ocean plastic. But it's amazing how something like this big, you could fill a sketchbook with this much paint. It's kind of wild, but to be able to share that and paint it forward has been so cool. Okay. Any other questions here? I can't really see the other one, so either Jen or somebody else, if you wouldn't mind retyping questions if you have them, or if you're thinking of a question, definitely put it in the chat, because it's like being in school, right? One person raises their hand to ask the dumb question, but like 10 people are thinking it. And I heard this saying the other day about art, that the only way to waste paint is to leave it in the tube, which I love, right? You're like thinking like, oh, these are expensive paints. I don't want to mess this up. But like the only way you're going to mess it up is by not putting that paint on paper. Even if it turns out a bad sketch or something, like the only way you can waste it is not putting it on the paper. But it's the same with questions. There are no dumb questions aside from the question that you leave in your own brain, because probably somebody else could have benefited from that. Okay, I'll wait for a few of those to come in. But somebody didn't ask it here, but I hit a kind of interesting situation. Here's a little bit of a life update. So we have a bunch of projects going on right now. Some really cool films. They all involve watercolor in them. And it's like the Footprints on Katmai film, if you saw it. It's going to be really, really, really cool. So we're doing that. We're trying to track down some more of my Grandma Lou's sketches. And then we also have a film about tracking down one of the sketches that's kind of in production. But all of this kind of got in my head a little bit. And over the last week, I've had this crisis of just like, what am I doing? Am I good enough? Where's all this coming from? What am I up to? And I realized all of it boiled down to being afraid of failing, which is such an interesting thing, because I feel like whether you're sketching, I'll grab some here. Here's all of the 2024 sketches. I put them all in a giant binder so they're easier to find. Where's the sketch I was worried about failing? Oh yes, this one. Okay, here's one. Did this for the Art Toolkit demo. This is not a hard sketch because I've done this about 10 times, but for some reason doing it on the Art Toolkit demo, there's so many elements in here that could have gone wrong. And I was just terrified of failing, and it kind of clammed me up a little bit. Once I got painting, I felt totally better and everything worked great. But it's amazing how that fear of failing can actually trip you up. It's like the fear of tripping. You're not going to trip. You know what your legs are doing until you think about, like, how do my legs know what they're doing? Or like, I hope I don't trip. And that's when you trip. And so I really just got in my own head about all these films and is it worth it? And eventually just kind of had to sort of shake myself a little bit, and everything just got way smoother after that. But I feel like it ties into paintings as well, where there's this, this fear of like, what if I mess up? And that's like the only thing that'll trip us up, but it's so effective at stopping us. It's incredible. So I'm looking for some of those mantras, like the only wasted paint is paint in a tube, or those kind of things, to almost tattoo onto my brain of just like, that's what I need to think of when this stuff happens. So I'm really excited that there are, 23 people right here, because this is the community that gets me so excited to keep on making this stuff, and having those people that kind of have my back, to know that it's like, there's other people like this, there's other people out there. It's just so cool. Okay, got some more questions. Okay, let's see, 25 series. Okay, questions there. Single sheet of paper, yes. So we're doing the 25-day series. So new binder, 'cause new year. So this is the 25-day series so far. It was 3 of them. If I can get them out of the binder. There's 3 of them right here. So they are going to be a big giant square. So 25, 5 by 5. Big giant 25 sheet square. Should take us about half a year if we do one a week. But we are going to have a coloring book. So if you want to do them on trail tiles, that's how I'm going to be doing them. But if you want to do one enormous giant painting, that is totally acceptable too. And we're going to have a coloring book that will be available if you wanted to trace all of it out on one huge sheet of paper. I know a lot of people tried to frame it last year and did some cool stuff, but that it was a feat to get those all mounted. So I think some people are looking to do one giant picture instead, which will be interesting to paint it one square at a time. It'll be like a quilt. That's going to be really fun. Kathy said that you love the Art Toolkit Folio palette. I'm looking for a larger aluminum palette. Any recommendations with the paint and the brush a little bit? Yeah, it kind of depends. When it comes to palettes, we did a little bit of a video. If you have the space, if your palette isn't going to move, I love these ceramic palettes that exist. They're wonderful, and it's the way water beads up on them is like, it's great. The issue is they are as heavy as a brick. So ceramic palettes are really wonderful. Maybe I can go grab one. Ceramic palettes are great. Other folios that are decent. Where is that palette? I'm glad that nobody can see my desk here, because it is an absolute wreck. There we go. Okay. Ceramic palettes are great. This is kind of what they look like, but there's just something about the way watercolor kind of beads up on them. But like, my arm is getting tired even holding this. They are enormous. And then there are plastic versions, which are something like this big. If you're looking for something, it will do. But there is, people like set out with intentions and ideas and stuff like that. There is something that is just having a palette that you respect. And I find these to be kind of flimsy. I don't know, this sounds real judgy, but like palettes are kind of where everything begins. And so, yeah, I would say something slightly bigger is great. Although this, it's a little gummed up because I used it. This right here is also plastic, but this is my grandmother's palette. Well, one of them. This is one of the ones that she would take traveling with her. She had a zillion as well. So this is one that she gave me when I was just starting. And even though this is plastic, it's like the reason behind it was so powerful, like the memories, the people, everything associated with it. I feel like this is just as good as, you know, the best ceramic palette ever. So it's kind of sentimentality too. You know, you need to find the right size and things, but yeah, attach some good memories to it. It's amazing where that will go. Okay. Let's see. Best ways to add texture to a painting. Oh, good question, Joe. So, okay, watercolor, there's like textures are everything and a lot, sometimes, caveat there. So grab some texture painting here. What's something, some good texture. Oh, okay, all right, this is a live, so I can show you. I've filmed a few tutorials, which I haven't just had the time to edit yet. Here's a sneak peek. So this is, I did a tutorial about how to draw this. This is a Klutna, which is this really cool lake with people skating on it. So you can kind of see textures. Let me grab a light here. You can kind of see there's some textures, real strong ones that you get in the bloom, and then all of this. And this is just with one type of paint and all of that. There's a real danger with textures because some people just go all in and they're just like, look at the great granulation, and the painting itself is okay. It's got great texture, but like maybe they should have spent a little bit more time on the composition or something like that. It's like film grain. Have you ever seen like a film and people are oohing and awing about the cinematography and all of that, but the story doesn't make a ton of sense? I would say when it comes to painting, your composition is everything. The what you have, what you captured, why you captured, that is key. But then textures can be really fun, and some of the ways that you can kind of enhance that is with textures. And some of the biggest ways with textures, the blooms are huge. The second is so when you add a bit of water, it blooms out. The second is paint. So there's just some really cool paints out there. M. Graham has some real textured stuff. Daniel Smith has a whole series of real minerally paints like Moon Glow, which is just, it looks like a cracked desert. It's super cool. The Art of Soil makes some really amazing paints. Those are like actually out of soil. They're not quite pigmenty, but you get a lot of texture. It's super, super, super cool stuff. And then you can also go to salt. You could freeze your paint. When I paint a lot in here, like or outside, I get some kind of freezing textures. And then your paper. If you want to try something really interesting, try this is all cold press kind of paper, but some hot press. Where's some hot press? Well, you're not gonna be able to see it on the camera anyway. But hot press is a little bit more unwieldy. It's not gonna stay where you put it, but the textures are gonna be amazing. And if you want to get really, really nuts, try out something called Yupo. YUPO maybe. It's like it's a plastic paper, which is acceptable to use. As somebody who works in the plastic industry, like like the recycling of plastics and just getting plastics out of the ocean, it's okay to buy plastic things, especially art supplies. And Yupo is a pretty cool thing. So it's like plastic paper. It takes forever to dry. Everything is mixing around. It's very trippy, but it's a very interesting texture. So yeah, I mean, your compositions are great, so you're in good shape. But I would say, yeah, compositions are great, and then texture is really just about how much do you want to play. Kind of sky's the limit, and then you can even paint the sky, so it's not even a limit. Great question. Okay, let's see. I am seeing a few more questions. I'm gonna skip here. Sorry about that. Just bear with me. Let's see. When I overthink, it trips me up. Yep, glad that you are in the exact same boat here. Honestly, I think we all must be. Let's see, little art toolkit. Oh, some great suggestions on good little palettes. This is awesome. This is really, really great. There's one question that I saw I missed. Oh yes, tips on using M. Graham paints. Okay. So we've been using a bunch of M. Graham paints lately. They're really fun. I just saw Jen commented on that. So there's I have probably 4 different brands of paint here. And the truth is, like, good artist colors, you're not gonna be too disappointed with any of them. There's like subtleties, but so long as you're not using Crayola or, Dollar Tree paints, honestly, even if you are using Dollar Tree paints, that's acceptable. But so long as you're not using those, they're gonna be kind of the same, one professional brand to another. But there are little tiny subtleties within each of them that you can kind of learn to appreciate. It's like all the whiskey snobs out there or something, the difference between a barrel-aged something something and Jim Beam. It's like, for a novice or somebody who doesn't really drink like me, probably not going to notice the difference. But if you get into it, and I prefer to spend my money on art supplies. I don't have any money for alcohol because I spend all my money on art supplies. If you get into it, you really do start to notice those subtleties, and it's just really fun. So, okay, M. Graham, like the three biggies for me, you've got Daniel Smith, well, maybe five biggies. Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, M. Graham, and what else? Holbein, and maybe like I'll put Schminke and all the others into a pile. Schminke and all the others, they are their own beasts. When you get into them, you get into them and just use as much as you can afford and just like appreciate the subtleties. I haven't used any of those too much to really notice like all of the wonderful nuances. Winsor Newton is the fanciest version of paint that's just going to do exactly what you want it to. Very expensive. It's what my grandmother used a lot of, and it is consistent. They've been doing it for 100 years. Or 200 years. I don't know. They're expensive, but they're good. They know what they're doing. Daniel Smith, super affordable, a lot of options, very cool stuff. They have, like, you should really use their paint because it reacts differently. Like, sometimes their moon glow and the way it all reacts is strong. So it's like a strong flavor. So if you don't want that to go awry, just make sure you practice beforehand. And then Holbein, like Winsor Newton, it's very pigmented. It's going to do exactly what you want it to every time. They're all manufactured in Japan by just very, very, very precise people. It's good stuff. It'll dry a lot too, like the Holbein stuff. You can see some of these paints are still kind of tacky, even though I haven't used this palette for quite a while. The Holbein stuff, it'll dry and then be very portable, very travelable, which is good. And then you get M. Graham. And M. Graham is kind of interesting. We're just messing with that a little bit now because I've been using it for a while, but kind of coming back to it. It's made with blackberry honey. And so it won't really like dry into a cake too much. So for travel, there's like one or two colors that really don't dry almost at all. So you really got to make sure not to use those. If you want those in like a palette that you're going to shake around and do all that stuff, don't use like there's one or two colors not to use. We'll experiment, figure it out, and let you know. But it means that it's like super tacky. So basically you touch the paint and a ton of color comes on your page. It's amazing. You can get this effect with other paints by just basically making sure there's a drop of water on each of them, like a minute or two beforehand, or just a spritz. That's also works really well. But it's amazing. Like, it's a paint that just it's 0 to 100. It's a lot of color and saturation. If you've seen my work, that's kind of what I like. So really having fun with them. They're local. They use all natural stuff. It's cool. So there's my like 5 big paint talks. But I'm also the kind of person who can't even remember a paint color, and I am so not a purist on them. They're all good. It's all good. If you're painting, it's good. Okay, jumping down here. Let's see if we got any more questions. Oh yes, and Kathy's down here. Kathy, so my grandmother, if you don't know the history of some of this, so my grandmother's the one who taught me how to paint. Here is one of her palettes. Amazing, amazing woman, as Kathy and a lot of people will tell you. And she traveled all over the world. She left behind 6,000 sketches and a ton of paintings. And she was like a much more famous quilter than she ever was a painter, but her paintings are amazing, like amazing watercolorist. And she really encouraged me to get into watercolor and get into painting just by example. Like, she would do it. It was amazing. She'd always make sure that I had access to paper and art supplies, which is good because I'm dyslexic. I grew up with dyslexia. I still have dyslexia. And reading and writing are very difficult. Getting stuff spelled right, it all gets jumbled in the head. And that's tough in school when you get docked points for misspelling things, even with an IEP, and it was tough. But watercolor kind of became my voice. which was amazing because I could make a painting, you know, like here's a whole book full of things that need no spelling errors. Like I'm not very good at even writing labels on anything, but like you understand it, you know, one picture and you get it. And I just love that aspect of it. But so she left behind all of these sketches, and it took me almost a decade to figure it out, but she basically left behind a treasure map. Every single one of those sketches, you can find out where she was. Actually, I think I have a couple right here if you want to see. So here is fireproof box, not taking chances. Everything. Oh, somebody's asking about the quilting. Yeah, her quilts were ridiculous. Like, I mean, very well done, all hand sewn. I don't even like fully appreciate it, but my wife is a quilter and she like saw her process and she's like, your grandmother was prolific. Like, I guess she did like an unbelievable amount of quilting in her life, but really fun stuff too. Like, she was in the Netherlands where there's a lot of like prostitution, for lack of a better word. And there's all these people in glass boxes where it's legal, you know, kind of selling themselves, I suppose. And she made a quilt of it with all these ladies in this glass box. So she was a very clever quilter, but also of Antarctica and like all of these wild things. And her watercolors were really cool, but she'd do these field sketches. So here's a bunch of these, you know, like 100 plus of these. And she only started when she was like 37 or something like that. And they're all full. So here's Australia and a bunch of others. And they're all full of these line drawings, which I told you were the scariest things. But what's so cool is they're basically all a treasure map. And let me find a good example here. We got Europe, 1978. We got Telwar. Europe. Okay, so like, for instance, this right here, right? You got a quick sketch of a castle scene. She might have gone back and made a big painting out of this. You can find out exactly where she sketched this because she was so accurate that if you take 30 steps to the left, this chimney is no longer going to line up with this castle roof. You know, the trees might have changed, but this won't. So I can find out exactly where she stood. What's 1978, 2000? 46 years later, whatever it is, I can find out exactly where she stood by kind of reversing this sketch. You know, only once this sketch lines up with what I was looking at would it be where she was sitting. And it turns out that a lot of times when you do that, you end up at like the most perfect bench. Of course, it was a great place to sketch. Like, why wouldn't somebody sketch there? So you can kind of get close, and then, you know, you sit down and all of a sudden it lines up like a puzzle piece. And then I can make the same sketch in the same place with the same stuff, basically bringing this book back 50 years later. And that's what we've started to do a little bit. We've done it with maybe 5 sketches, and it's the wildest thing because sometimes it's like nothing has changed, and then sometimes it's like a totally different world. So it's been pretty cool as a way to reconnect with my grandmother in that way and just learn about what an amazing lady and what an amazing life. And it's really fun that there's still a bunch of people who were very touched by her because she did the best job of painting it forward of anybody I know. Okay, so we're going all over the place today's Q&A. Okay, so quilting, and let's see. Oh yeah, Daniel Smith. Let's see. Was my grandmother Dutch or Dutch descent? She wasn't Dutch. No. Well, I don't know. Maybe English. A mutt. Very tall. So I should figure that out. That's a good question. But she went everywhere. I mean, we're talking Antarctica like 12 times maybe, Greenland, Chile, the Galapagos, Ukraine, Russia. She traveled everywhere and made sketches of everything. So in order to find and track down all of her sketches would likely take 2, maybe 300 years. I don't know. Depends on how fast I was, but she was so prolific. And my dream is to, you know, leave behind an equal amount of sketches for my grandchildren. I think would be pretty cool because it's just like gold. You know, it's great to leave behind money or a house or something like that, but like these are precious because when you are there making the same sketch in the same place and seeing what they saw, it's so much different than a picture. It's like a time machine. It's like this language that we all speak, you know, dyslexic or not, one sketch to another, like it is incredible the way that you can kind of connect with somebody. You saw the lines they made, and then I get to paint it in, because some of these are colored in, but most of them aren't. So it's literally like she left behind this coloring book time machine. It's so cool. We'll make a film about it. We'll show you. It'll be great, but daunting. Okay. Any more questions here? Let's see. I think I missed a bunch up top, but let me see. There were a bunch that were sent earlier, and I absolutely messed that up. If you are just getting here now, it's because I tried to do something fancy. I tried to do a live from a GoPro because I want to be able to take these out into the field, and haven't quite figured that out yet. So eventually I will be able to kind of have conversations and actually bring you along painting in the cold or in the rain or on a mountaintop, and kind of bring along. So that's the dream. But until then, we're going to give you lots of technical difficulties. Okay, what did I miss here? Also, we got a PO box. So if you have any really fun sketches that you want to send, I saw that this was in the chat. It's right up toward the top. PO box 1401. Actually, I'll just copy and paste it. Let's see, copy. So if you want to send something, my dream is to cover these walls with your artwork, because that's what inspires me so much. It's so cool. I mean, just seeing the artwork that other people are making, because it's all so different. You can't make two watercolors that are the same. It's like they're like snowflakes, and being able to see people's interpretation, it is like, that is the most inspiring thing ever. So the dream, covering these walls with watercolor. Okay, jumping down. If there's any more questions, how do I get back to those other ones? I should figure this out one day. Let's see, maybe Jen could send me a, can you send me, oh yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, the update. Oh yeah, okay, looks like I did answer all the questions. Great. Okay, a couple more. Why did you choose to create Trailbound YouTube channel and keep your Max Romey channel separate? That is a good question. So there's something about starting fresh. As somebody who's a chronic fresh sketchbook starter, maybe there's some other of you who can relate, but when things feel rough, I often am like, what would fix this is if I started a brand new fresh sketchbook, and that is going to solve all my problems. So like, there's so many, I'll show you here. This is embarrassing, but you should see there's so many sketchbooks up here. I would bet like most of these are half filled, because I would usually get to about halfway there, and then I'd be like, well, that's enough. But the idea behind starting a new Trailbound Sketches YouTube channel is just to kind of keep things organized and a bit more coordinated. So the plan with this is really to kind of focus on the art and that piece. The Max Romey one had a lot of running and all of these other things in it, but we're kind of try to start kind of fresh and really, really hone something in that we can build that community and have this nice coordinated place for a little bit of everything, and have a one-stop place where you can get inspired, maybe find a tutorial or two, and then kind of paint it forward yourself. So I'd say, yeah, the Trailbound dream is to have a YouTube where it's all about painting it forward. And, also sometimes you got to start a fresh thing, even though maybe it's not how you solve all your problems. But I mean, what better to start all your problems than a fresh new sketchbook? Let's see. And then there was a couple other questions. People were asking about like trail tiles as a, like using them instead of a sketchbook, speaking of fresh sketchbooks. And I got a couple questions about this binder here, which Goodwill, $3. Feel very good about it. And I filled it with, their trail tiles are 3.5 by 3.5. So I filled this with these old slide, it must have been like old archival photo sheets that I found. So they're all like the perfect size. They're all 3.5 by 3.5. I'm not sure who makes them, but they should make more. And it has been really amazing, actually, as far as like a way to look back at a year, because I spend things, I basically spend every sketch perpetually feeling like I've forgotten how to paint. It's a strange problem. Maybe you're in the same boat, but I'd say like every time I open to a blank page, it is like, what am I even doing? Like, do I even remember how to do this? Am I an artist? Am I going to like, are people going to find out and then my art card is going to be revoked? And so to have everything in one place almost as this reminder of like, oh yeah, you've sketched quite a lot. This is all 1 year. And I gave away about half of these. I hide a lot of sketches for people to find. Has been really, really cool. So I don't know if a binder is for everybody or what it is, but if I can make one suggestion, I would say unhide your sketchbooks. They look great when they're all in some nice, neat row, but if you can cover your space in your art, it gives you kind of this reminder that you have done this before. You know what you're doing, especially the art you love. And so often I give it away, but I'm going to try to get in the habit of making copies. So make one, and if it worked out great, make another. Keep one and then give one away maybe. But if you can do it once, you can do it again. And I think that having one copy around and visible is kind of making a big difference for me. And I just learned that Bob Ross did that. So, if you need a celebrity endorsement, apparently Bob Ross would make 3 of each of his paintings that was on the show. You make one kind of as a tester, they'd film one, and then he'd make one after as well. They'd often be very similar, but he would do triplicates. And so, when it comes to watercolor, especially once you've done it once, it should be way simpler to do it again. So if you get a chance, I would suggest trying a double. Maybe once to paint it and once to learn, and once to paint and once to have fun. But you can't make the same painting. So it's not like you're going to end up with a real copy. You're going to end up with 2, in my case, very different things. Okay. Will you be, thank you for these questions, by the way, Linda. Will you be creating more shorts to submit to more film festivals? Okay. I promised that I wouldn't leave people in cliffhangery moments. So yes, we are working on a few. I can't share too much about a few of them, but I'll share as much as I can without violating non-disclosure agreements. So we have a couple shorts that we're working on. One is the marble film. We went to try to find one of Lou's sketches, and it led us on an adventure. So we're kind of working on that sort of in the wings a little bit, when we have time here or there. But the hope is to have it done by the Telluride Film Fest, which is where it all started in May. So that should be really, really, really fun. And we'll see what that looks like then. Trying to kind of do the term that's been used is maxification, where kind of like the watercolor within it. It sounds strange for me to say that, but you're almost like walking through a watercolor. So we're slowly putting that together, but we're hoping to have one of these, looking for my grandmother's sketchbooks adventures by May. So that'll be a fun little short. And then with Keen, the shoe company that makes great stuff, they are working with me to do some really cool films this year. So if you give a beach a bottle, Footprints on Katmai, those were tackling really hard, complex issues like ocean plastic with paintings in watercolor, which is so cool. If you ever get a chance, watercolor can just simplifies things down in a way like nothing else can. And so the hope is to try to tackle a few more of these really, really, really complex issues that you can't really look directly at. It's like staring into a bright light or the sun. If you stare right at it, you're going to burn out your eyeballs. But if you use watercolor, it's like putting sunglasses on or, a rain cloud in front of it, and then you get a rainbow. So that's the goal, is to put a couple, maybe even as many as 4 something of these films that kind of tackle these really complex issues that we kind of all agree on, but are usually pretty polarized, and just put this layer of art over it that makes it more of an adventure and easier to share. So that's the dream. But yeah, stick with us. We'll let you know how those go. Kicking off a little bit more than we can chew usually, but that's how you learn. You shoot for the moon, and when it comes to art, these issues are too big not to kind of go for it. So that's what we're gonna aim for. Oh yeah, let's see. Maybe show folks how you fit everything into a trail tile. Oh yeah, that's kind of been interesting. With the trail tiles, there's been a lot of cool stuff of people using the little palette. I don't have the little palette with me right now. I had one of those fun little red ones. I actually sent it to somebody who needed it. I need to get another. But we've been very curious. These tins, so these are the trail tile tins. They have been really cool. So we created trail tiles. They're basically a tin of watercolor squares, and then they've really kind of helped me get over a bunch of hurdles. And it turns out a lot of other people wanted them too. We're not business people, at least the Trailbound team, but we're figuring it out. But one of the things we run into is we have a lot of these extra tins. So I've used a lot of paintings. I have a lot of tins. The beauty is like these are still very functional. If they were just plastic or something, they'd be thrown away, but they're great. And I put spices, all kinds of stuff. But we're trying to figure out good uses for them. Our other solution is we just want to make refills. Zen tiles, a lot of like, this is a pretty standard size, so you can get other papers to put in here as well, but we want to create like different kinds of refills, and so we're kind of working on that. But until then, if anybody has any good suggestions of something to do with a really cool tin, I mean, we're artists, we're creative, we can figure this out. Also, I can never have enough tins in my life, so that's kind of a fun problem to have. But it's been fun with trail tiles. You can kind of squish everything in there. There's like really tiny little Da Vinci brushes, and if you kind of fill a half full of paper with our toolkit, you can get a palette and a brush, or you can just kind of throw them in a bag all together. And then when you open it up, that's been the best thing for me, is just to be able to have my tile here, and then I put a couple magnets on my palette, and it's got a great little spot for that to kind of instant little easel. Super useful. Okay. Liking the idea of refills, super cool. Please make trail tile refills. Yes, that's absolutely what we're aiming for. It would just be a really cool way to reuse the same tin. You could add different papers, which would be amazing. And then the biggest thing that we were thinking of is it could be a great way for, like waste management. If there's a giant sheet of paper is cut, and say there's scrap paper that's 3.5 inches by 20 inches, you can chop that up and turn it into trail tiles. So our dream is to really create a system that is just really functional and also very efficient and could reduce waste, especially paper waste, because it's these little moments when you can that would be so great. Also, we just like really nice paper. I mean, can you imagine like a hot press refill, a cold press refill? You want texture? Perfect. We do a rough refill, maybe a toned gray, whatever it is, could be just really cool. And then you could leave the sweet stickers that you put on your trail tile on them and just kind of keep on using them. So yeah, we're working on it. The company we work with is Hanamula. They're the ones with the little rooster. They're in Germany. They're phenomenal, but they're 400 years old, and when they do something, they do it really, really, really well, and it takes a little while. So we're just trying to go through the process. It's very new to us. Okay. Yes, people seem really excited. Oh yeah, sticker magnets on the bottom. Yeah, it holds spare art. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Zen Tangle tiles are the same size as trail tiles. Yeah, so this is sort of where it all started. So Hanamula worked kind of with the Zen tile, the Zen what are they called? Like the Zen, basically where people are sketching this size square, and we were like, we need that as like what we need a watercolor version, and it just took a whole life of its own. So there's lots of different papers out there that kind of universally made, which is phenomenal. So we're hoping that kind of make it useful and easy and something that's not exclusive. That's what art should be. Okay, and more stickers. If there's any more questions, I'm actually going to jump off here in probably 10 minutes because I have this really cool film that I'm currently working on, and I have been so nervous about it because I'm finally putting some narration to it, and it it looks terrible, which is a weird thing to say. It's okay though. It's okay because when films start, they do not look good. They do not sound good, and that is good. If they look good and they sound good right at the beginning, you will not change them or remove them at all, and life is bad. And it's the exact same with watercolor. Like if your watercolor looks great right off the bat, you should be worried. Otherwise, you're fine. Like watercolors come together in the last 2 or 3 brush strokes. That's the sweet spot. And it's kind of the same with a film. It should look bad basically up until the final draft, and then it should look like semi-bad, and then the last one is kind of what brings it together. So I'm working on a film right now. It's a bunch of watercolor. It's with Keen. It's going to be really cool. I think the dream is to have it out in like March or April or something. So it'll be out soonish. But I'm at this phase right now where it just looks bad. And I am feeling really inspired from this conversation, just like talking through these things, hearing these questions, seeing that I'm so not alone in a lot of this. I'm feeling the inspiration right now. So that's been kind of really great to feel, even with some major technical difficulties. So I really appreciate everybody sticking with this. And then let's see, other questions. Will we make more stickers? Yes, we are definitely working on the sticker side of things. Especially because you gotta have something good for the trail tile. These are custom made for stickers. That and Nalgene's. It's like the ultimate stickering things are pretty fantastic. And then one question I kind of had is how can we make this more useful? Obviously, if we don't bait and switch you and like put the wrong links on the internet, probably a little bit more functional, a little bit more useful to everybody. But then if there's anything that we can do as far as kind of helping to connect this community, it's so cool to see where it's coming from and how other people are helping out other people, and the inspiration that I get. Like, I can tell you, I don't even know if this is doing anything for anybody else, but for me, it's so cool to kind of see this exist in the world. So if you have any thoughts that we could do, whether it's a live or figuring out this, so I can stick one of these on my head and actually take you into the field and do something like that, so you can ask, like, how are you dealing with your paint now that it is entirely frozen? And I can explain that in the process. I'd be super excited to hear more about those, because technology is scary, but there's some pretty cool stuff you can use it for too. And lives like this are just a really cool way to connect. Like 360, should we do a virtual reality live? I don't know. Maybe we wait a few years on that one, but tons of options. Anything is possible. Okay, any more questions? Last chance. I feel like an auctioneer or something, right? Like going once, going twice. Otherwise, this has just been really cool, and just the stuff that we're trying to work on this year. We really apologize about any of the either delay on creating palettes or getting them out there. And if you do live in Canada and the postal strike did affect you, reach out to us. We might be able to sort you out. We're just kind of taking a bit of a step back from like the shipping side of things, the product side of things, to really work on some inspiring side of things. And we'll come back to the products as well, but it kind of feels like one of those years where we need some inspiration. Especially in Alaska. It is gray and icy, and we had a lot of rain, which is totally unusual, and so it is bleak. So working on that inspiration right now. Okay, couple more questions. Nope, just thanks. Oh yeah, I think getting a GoPro up and running would be awesome. Okay, great. I will 100% work on that. That is what we tried to do this one, actually, believe it or not. So once we can kind of get that up and running, that's the plan. Probably every Friday, just a really cool live. Put it on a calendar now. Hold us accountable to it. But the dream is either, a Q&A or maybe a tutorial or a demo or something like that on Fridays. But ideally, it's a fun adventure. Taking everybody into the field. I want to show you my backyard. Alaska's incredible. Maybe we'll see a moose. Hopefully not a bear, but it is warm out, so maybe. And then just showing the adventure part of art, because it's fun to do it on a table, but sometimes you need to go out into the field and make a terrible sketch and get really, really, really inspired, because that's a huge part of it too. But we don't always post that online. Okay, check-in. No more questions. All right. Well, I am hyped off of this. This is great. I'm gonna go turn this off and get to editing right now, because I am excited to kind of get past that scary initial brushstroke phase, at least to the video. Maybe I should do some more painting too. That's always a good reminder. But yeah, it's super excited. Check us out on next Wednesday. We'll be doing another one of those lives. We're painting a big, giant 25 painting thing. Each one is going to be a little different. Last time we painted a boat, and seen some amazing boats out there now. And then if you do get a chance, and you haven't yet, definitely hit subscribe, or the like button, because that helps the YouTube algorithm a lot. So the only reason that we can do lives in the field is because, or the reason I can do it live right now is because we hit 1,000 subscribers. And I think once we got like X number more subscribers, it just like gives us all these extra tools to be able to do some more cool stuff. So if you get a chance, definitely hit the like button, definitely hit the subscribe button. That helps us out a bunch, but also just keep on making some cool paintings. It's amazing how much of an impact something as simple as a sketch or a card, or even just like a nice comment or something, can make in somebody's life. And for me, my grandmother really painted it forward in such a huge way with me. And it wasn't, sitting me down and forcing me to do art. It was just leading by example. And, if you're sketching in your life, chances are you're doing that too. So keep up the amazing work, and have a super good weekend. And if it's bleak and wintry out there, I hope you're able to paint maybe a bright, colorful little sketch inside. But check us out on Wednesday, and maybe we'll do something like this next Friday, and maybe we'll actually get it right the first time. But we'll see. You're the ones who actually came through and were able to find us when we kind of did the little bait and switch.